Hello and welcome to another AZMAT System tutorial. Let's start up with opening the main program file. So file open, and I'm using drive F, this particular one. So Excel 2010, AZMAT.xls, read, open read only. Simple password, so it's easy for you to remember. This is the AZMAT System password to ensure that only authorized users can use AZMAT System. I'm using my two-letter ID AA here. Every user has to use two-letter ID, so all their files begin with that ID. Simple 4-digit password. Right, we are now here. Open Excel, telling me that all Excel commands are on the add-ins will be right to this last one. Last Excel menu, their developer in this case, their add-ins. I'm just going to restore the file to from its maximized to original position. Right. So the Excel, all the Excel commands are there. You have full access to all Excel commands. I've got these useful icons there for most common Excel commands that I think are necessary. I use it all the time. When you click Add In, you have all Excel, all the AZMAT System menus in Excel are also available to you. As you can see that, or so on. We won't use it right now. Today, I'm going to concentrate again on this AZ parameters area, and we will just go through briefly with on the Excel, the CF date, cash flow date areas, and the discount factor date areas, and so on, where it is, how, and what in quite detail. We'll do the same first for cash flow, and then the discount factor is also very similar, but it'll act as a revision, if you like. So on the cash flow date, if a number, any number, a cash flow date question mark, so its question mark means 1 to 99. So if any number between 1 and 99 is entered here, it will use that particular cash flow. So it will attach that number after the E of date. So it will become CF date 8 currently. So CF date 15 or whatever, if you enter 15 here. So this number can be up to between 1 and 99. So CF date question mark, if a number between 1 and 99 inclusive is specified, AZMAT System searches for a range name called CF date question mark, where the question mark represents a number specified. For example, in this case, 8. If 8 is specified, AZMAT System searches for a number, for a range name, not for a number, searches for a range name that is called CF date 8. If that particular range name is not defined, then the user is prompted for the cash flow dates area, as we saw in other tutorials. So if you don't have anything here, or if this particular CF date like 8 didn't exist, it asks you to define the cash flow area by using the mouse pointing, using the mouse point to the correct cash flow area. To see where CF date is searched for, we have to look at the CF date worksheet and workbook topic in Excel and AZMAT System help manual. User is prompted for the cash flow dates area if anything other than a number between 1 and 99 is specified for this use CF date. So if it's not a number, or a number which is not within this range, 1 to 99, then user is prompted for the cash flow dates area. In this case, AZMAT System enters -1 in the use CF date cell and prompts the user for cash flow dates area without searching for any range name. User is also prompted for the cash flow dates area if use CF date is not prompted. So if you enter any number outside this range or anything, then AZMAT System will enter -1 to ensure that that error is not carried forward to the next command, and you will be asked for the actual, you'll be prompted for the cash flow dates area. Note, the user can point to or specify CF date area on any currently open file. So it doesn't have to be on this particular worksheet, in this particular workbook. It can be on any open Excel file. So if I had more files open, right now I have only one AA.xlsx file is open, but if I had other files open, I could change to the file, the one where the cash flow is. Cash flow dates workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT. So just for the cash flows, so if you have cash flow on another worksheet, it could be another workbook rather. Workbook, think of workbook as a file. So let's say file on another file. That file does not have to have a worksheet called AZMAT. You need a worksheet called AZMAT where you begin the command with from, but not specify the cash flow area. It can have that worksheet called AZMAT, but it doesn't have to. So you can get cash flow from any currently open worksheet or workbook. Now we'll just go through briefly with various scenarios. For example, 5 different scenarios. Now, to read the description of CF date, use CF date topic in the help file. Case 1. If both CF date worksheet, for example here, CF date worksheet, you can specify where the cash flow date area is by specifying the worksheet name and or workbook name as well here if you want. So if both the CF date worksheet and CF date workbook are specified, both of them, the worksheet and the workbook, and the specified worksheet does not exist in the specified workbook, then an error message is displayed. So because you have said, for example, in this particular workbook or file, whatever file is, a particular worksheet is there on which a cash flow area to be found. And that worksheet does not exist, obviously it's an error, and you will get an error message displayed by AZMAT System. AZMAT System requires the specified worksheet to be present in the specified workbook in order to proceed with the command. Simple as that. Case 2. If only the CF date worksheet is specified, so there, specific worksheet only, and you don't specify the workbook, right? So if only worksheet is specified and the workbook is not specified, and that the specified worksheet, the one you said, right, use this particular worksheet, it does not exist in the current workbook. Again, an error message is displayed because if you specify only a particular worksheet, and if it does not exist in the current file or workbook, then an error message is displayed. AZMAT System requires that particular worksheet to be present in the current workbook in order to proceed with the command. Because if you say a particular worksheet, find the cash flow dates, if that worksheet itself doesn't exist, obviously something is not right. It cannot proceed with the command. Case 3. If the CF date workbook is specified, a workbook there, cash flow date workbook, that means that's where the cash flow area is. And whether or not CF date worksheet is specified, and whether you specify the worksheet or not does not matter. If you specify a workbook name and that workbook is not open, so it doesn't really matter with the worksheet. If the file itself, that particular workbook is not open, an error message is displayed. Obviously, you have to have that workbook open if you're saying that that's where find the cash flow. Case 4. If both CF date worksheet and the CF date workbook, if both are specified here, right, they are specified, and the specified workbook file containing the specified worksheet, so this workbook, whatever you say, this particular workbook, and that contains this particular worksheet, if that is open, then if the workbook you have specified, workbook or the file if you like, and the worksheet is specified, then it will look for the specified the date, CF date 8, for example, in this case, in that worksheet, in that workbook. So workbook, think of workbook as a file. So in that file, it'll look for this particular worksheet, and then in that worksheet, it'll look for CF date 8, because that's what I have got here. If this was some other number, that's what it will look for. And if that particular CF date range name is not defined in the specified worksheet, then the user is prompted for the cash flow dates area. So it will not be an error because both the workbook and the worksheet both exist and are open. So, and just because the cash flow date area is not there, does not matter, it's not a big deal, then AZMAT System will prompt the user to specify the cash flow area, which could be in that particular workbook, on that particular worksheet, or it could be anywhere, wherever you like. Case 5. If both CF date worksheet and CF date workbook are not specified, right? Like in this case, they're both blank. Then a range name called CF date question mark, which question mark could be any number. In this case, it'll be 8. So if you do not specify any worksheet or workbook here, then AZMAT System will look for CF date 8 in this case in the current workbook, right? In the current worksheet and the current workbook. So in the workbook, it will not go and look for another worksheet, but will look in the current worksheet where you have this area, as AZ area. If the particular CF date 8 in this case, range name is not defined in the current worksheet, then the user is prompted for the cash flow dates area. So there are various scenarios, all these things. When you're writing the program, you have to think about all these possibilities. Anything that is possible, you have to find a solution. And obviously, if the user has specified a particular worksheet or a particular workbook, that's where they want the cash flow date to be found. And so you don't go down and just say, right, okay, that workbook doesn't exist or that worksheet doesn't exist. I'll just go and use the cash flow date 8 A0108, which if it exists in the current worksheet. No, you have to let the user know that what they have specified is incorrect, and the user then will decide whether use the cash flow date from area from this worksheet or another worksheet or another workbook, or they may have made a mistake in entering either the worksheet name or the workbook name. So it's the user who will decide in the end what to do. So user can point to or specify CF date area on any currently open file. Okay, so it doesn't have to be in this particular currently displayed worksheet or currently open workbook here. It can be on any particular workbook, and that particular workbook or file does not have to be even Excel file. It can be a CSV, comma separated value file, .csv file, or .txt text file. So whatever file is there, AZMAT System, as long as it can be opened in Excel, AZMAT System will use the cash flow from. So cash flow dates workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT. It can just be an open Excel file. Similarly, the DF date is very similar to this, so we will not need to perhaps go in very much detail, but we will go through very briefly, so it will act as a revision to this CF date. So we have, similar to CF date, we have DF date, although not quite exactly 100% same. So in the use DF date here, so when we say use DF date, there, use DF date question mark, there are some differences here. For example, in here, if you enter 100, if use DF date is 100, like I have here now, it means use the CF date question mark, whatever the value in CF date. So the DF stands for discount factor date. So instead of using a particular number here, I can enter the 100 there in the use CF date, DF date, and it means I should use whatever I have specified for the CF date, including CF date, the worksheet, and the workbook. So use that date from there if you put in 100 in the use DF date area. So if a number between 1 and 99 inclusive is specified, same as CF date, between 1 and 99, if you specify that in here, then AZMAT System searches for a range name called DF date, question mark. So question mark means the number you have put in between 1 and 99. So if you enter 7 there, so it will look for a range name called DF date 7. If that particular range name is not defined, then the user is prompted for the discount factor dates area. Similar to we saw before for the cash flow, you will be prompted with a dialog box here, and you have to point to the discount factor date area. Very, very similar to the cash flow date. If use DF date has 0, so instead of 100, if I have 0 here, then it's very different. It is very completely different to cash flow. If you enter 0 here, then AZMAT System generates discount factor dates. It does not search for a range name called DF date 0. This does not exist in the cash flow date parameter, for example. You can't enter cash flow date 0. That will be treated as an error. But in DF date, if you enter 0, instead of giving a number between 1 and 99 to look for DF date 1 to 99, whatever, or if you enter 100, 100 means use the CF date. If you enter 0 here, you're telling AZMAT System to generate the discount factor dates, and it does not look for any range name called DF date 0. So you will learn all these different terms and discount factor instruments and why and when you will use A, B, C, or whatever later on. Right now, I'd like you to fully understand how to use AZMAT System. So you can see here the very brief, helpful notes are here adjacent to the actual input area, but the AZMAT System help file has all this information in very much in detail, and you can read it at your leisure. So, as we saw here, if the DF date rather has 100, AZMAT System uses the contents of use CF date, as we said before, to search for a range name called CF date. It then uses the dates column of the CF date as the discount factor dates. So, for example, in here, I've got CF date 8 there. So you look for a range name CF date 8, or if I put in 1, say for example, it will look for CF date 1. That CF date 1 is the cash flow date, which is cash flow date area, remember, is 2 columns, date column and the amount column. Whereas the discount factor, DF date, is only the date column. So if you enter 100 here like this, it will look for the CF date dates column. Note that the CF date 1 will stop here. This date is just something else I had entered as while I was showing something else. This date is not part of this cash flow date area. Cash flow date, they have to be consecutive dates. As soon as there is a blank cell, then AZMAT System assumes that the date area, that particular date area, ends there. Last non-blank date cell. So the fact that we have this date doesn't mean anything. This could be just anything else while we were testing. Right, now, so the user is prompted for the discount factor dates area if anything other than a number between 0 and 100 is specified for the use DF date. So remember, 1 to 99 is the number when you want DF date 1, DF date 2, and so on up to DF date 99. When you put 100 here, it means you're telling AZMAT System to use the dates of the CF date area. And when you enter 0 here, when you specify 0 for the use DF date, discount factor date, if you enter 0 here in this cell, you're telling AZMAT System to generate discount factor dates. So if anything other than 0 to 100 is specified, then the user is prompted for the discount factor dates area. In this case, AZMAT System enters -1 in the use DF date cell. So if you enter something non-valid, enter some text or anything other than number between 0 and 100, AZMAT System will enter -1 here to ensure that that error, a completely invalid entry, does not carry forward to the next command. And then it will prompt the user for the discount factor dates area. It will not search for any range name if you enter anything outside the valid number or in that particular cell. So the user is also prompted for the discount factor dates area is if use df date is not specified. So if you don't have anything here, if I simply if I cancel that, delete that, so there's nothing there. For use df date, nothing there. Similar to, well, not similar, exactly the same as cash flow date. If I have nothing there, it will ask the user to specify where the date is. It'll actually get a dialog box, and the user can point to the cash flow date, either the first date cell or the whole cash flow date area, or in this case, discount factor dates, which will be just simply actual dates column, where the cash flow date area is 2 columns wide, remember. The user can then point to or specify df date area on any currently open file. Same as the cash flow date. It can be a file which is not an Excel file even. Use a text file or .csv, comma separated file, comma separated values, CSV file, or anything. As long as that particular file is open in Excel, you can use that. So the user can specify discount factor dates from anywhere in any worksheet of any workbook, as long as that workbook is already open. Discount factor dates workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT. Okay, so you do not really, it does not have to contain worksheet called AZMAT. As long as that particular file is open, AZMAT system can use it. Now, the actual scenarios, as we saw for the CF date, cash flow dates, we saw 5 cases. Now, discount factor one is very similar, so I'll go through very quickly, and this will just treat as a revision, if you like, of the one we had for the cash flow date area one. So in this case, I'll just put this 100 back here. Use CF date. Because I might want it to use that rather than having to specify each time I have here. Okay, so the first scenario is case 1. If both df date worksheets, so df date, remember df date stands for discount factor, df, discount factor. If the discount factor, if you say use df date from this worksheet and df date workbook is there, so you are obviously specifying here df date worksheet, df date workbook. So the first case 1 is if both df date worksheet and df date workbook are specified. If both are specified and the specified worksheet does not exist in the specified workbook, an error message is displayed. AZMAT system requires that if you specify a worksheet in a particular workbook, then it must be present. If it is not present, you'll get an error message. Case 2, if only the df date worksheet is specified. So you don't specify any workbook, but you specify the worksheet and say, look for the df date in that particular worksheet, and do not specify the workbook. And that particular worksheet does not exist in the current workbook, right? In the workbook where we are here now. If it doesn't exist, then an error message is displayed. So for example, if you say use df date and I have a worksheet called Sheet 5 in here. And Sheet 5 did not exist in this currently open workbook, this particular one. The reason why to look for in the currently open workbook is because I have not specified the workbook. If you don't specify the workbook, AZMAT System will look for that particular worksheet, a specified worksheet in the current workbook. If it doesn't exist, an error message is displayed. Let's look for case 4 or case 3. Before we go there, let's have a quick look at case 3, which if DF date workbook is specified. So if you specify a particular workbook, there. Remember, workbook, think of it workbook as a file. If you specify a particular file name, that particular workbook is not, and doesn't matter whether you specify the worksheet or not. If the workbook is not open, that particular workbook file, the one you specify, is not open, then an error message is displayed because that particular workbook has to be open. So AZMAT System is not going to open the file for you. If you specify any DF date, discount factor dates area, or cash flow dates area, and you specify a particular workbook, i.e. the file name, that file must already be open. If it's open, then AZMAT System will use it. If it's not open, an error message will be displayed. Case 4. If both the DF date worksheet and the workbook, so discount factor worksheet and discount factor workbook, if both are specified and the specified workbook file containing the specified worksheet is already open, a range name called DF date. So DF date in this case, if you've specified that, you obviously are not going to have it 100 here. You will have something, a number. Let's put number 4, for example. So if we have 4 there and you've specified a worksheet and a workbook, both are specified, then it will look for DF date 4 in the worksheet called here, whatever name you specify, in that particular worksheet, in that particular workbook. If it'll search for, AZMAT System will search for DF date 4 in that. If that particular DF date range name is not defined, remember, if you have a particular date here, for example, CF date 2 there, or DF date 1 here, whatever, you have to specify, you actually have to name that range. Because AZMAT System is not looking for DF date on the text, actual name written on it. It's looking for the range name, defined range name. So for example, in here, if I go in here, have a look for defined names in there, click that name manager, you will see I have CF date 4, I have DF date 1, DF date 2. These are already defined. Say so where they are from, refer to what. Okay, so you must have already defined. So have the range name and define it already. This is the this name manager, if you like. This is what AZMAT System will look for, to search for. Those particular names are they already defined? It doesn't actually look for in this name manager dialog box. AZMAT System doesn't actually look. This is just for the user's benefit. It's here it is, so you can see whether a particular name exists or not in that particular file. So in this particular file, we do not have, for example, DF date 3 or 4 or whatever. We have DF date 1, DF date 2, or we have CF date 1 all the way up to CF date 7, date 8. So, and we have DF result, RES is for 1, result, and DF result 1 is defined. We do not have anything else. So we definitely do not have DF date 4 in the current worksheet of the current workbook. Because I have here worksheet and workbook, they are not defined at all here. So it's going to look for in the current workbook. But if I had named here a particular worksheet name and a particular workbook name, then it will look for DF date 4 in that particular worksheet. Could be whatever name, say sheet 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever, or some other name is called whatever, in that particular workbook. Look for DF date 4. And the name must be defined there. And the AZMAT system will know whether or not it's actually defined. So we'll close that. Now, case 5, if both the DF date worksheet and DF date workbook are not specified, like now, here, in this case, they're both blank. I don't have anything in here for worksheet name or workbook name. So I'm telling AZMAT system to look for this particular number 4, DF date 4 attached, so it's be DF date 4. Look for DF date 4 in the current worksheet of the current workbook, which means basically this file we have it here. So if both DF date worksheet and DF date workbook are not specified, a range name called DF date question mark could be stand for anything between 1 and 99. Remember, 0 is to generate the DF date, 1 to 99 to actually have an area, and 100 means go and look for, use the CF date. So if you don't have that particular name in that current workbook and worksheet here, then it will prompt the user for the discount factor dates area. User can point to or specify DF date area on any currently open file. Again, exactly the same as CF date. The discount factor, the user can specify discount factor dates from anywhere in any worksheet of any workbook, as long as that workbook is already open. So as long as that file, workbook or file, as long as that file is already open, then you can point to using the mouse when the dialog box is open, when it actually comes up with the dialog box. Discount factor dates workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT. This is exactly the same as for the CF date. So it does not have to have that particular AZMAT workbook open already for it to use the discount factor dates. Now we'll have a quick look at the use DF res. Res, just want to keep it short, so res stands for result. So use DF res if a number between 1, so for example, I have here DF res. There, use DF res number between 1 and 99. If a number between 1 and 99 inclusive is specified, AZMAT system searches for a range name called DF res, then question mark with the number, question mark could be the number between 1 and 99. So if I have it 1, so it look for DF res 1, and so on. For example, if the number 2 is specified, AZMAT system searches for a range name called DF res 2. If that particular range name is not defined, then the user is prompted for the discount factor DF result area. Remember, this is very different. The result area is very different to the DF date or CF date, because here the actual results are placed. and the actual number of rows and columns are maybe very different. So you really need to know, ideally best things to use it, the DF res, where you have nothing below the actual your area, the one where you want to place the result. So in here, as you can see, I don't have my scroll bars, vertical or horizontal. So I'm going to use the window command, window, arrange all. Tile is fine because there's only one at present. So workbook, Windows Active Workbook, whether it's clicked or not in this case wouldn't matter because there's only one window. But if there were more, then obviously I don't want, then it would be necessary for it. So leave that checked in. So there. So I have the scroll bars, vertical ones, and the horizontal one there. So I have the CF date 8, for example, there. This is my CF date 8. So here define CF date 8 is there. But also I could put, if I was using the CF date 8, I could either point the whole area or I could just click the top, the first date. And AZMAT System will go and search for, we'll go and run one by one, tuck, 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 all the way until it comes across a blank cell. Then it will say, right, the actual date area is that for the cash flow. But if it's for discount factor, it doesn't need 2 columns, it's only 1 column because discount factor is just date column there. And it will stop. It will not continue here onwards. It's just as soon as come across a blank cell, that's the end of the date area. So in this case, CF date, this is the CF date 8, as you can see here, CF date 8. So if I have it here, for example, have a quick look here. If I have, instead of 4, I put in 100. There. I have 100 in the use DF date. If it's 100, use CF date, question mark. Question mark stands for any number between 1 and 99. So if I put 100 there, I'm telling AZMAT System to use the CF date, whatever is here. So I have it 8. So I'm telling it to use the dates from the CF date 8 area. So as we saw below, the CF date here, 8 is this. CF date area is that. I'm telling the system to use the dates column of that CF date 8 by putting 100 there, and then I don't need to sort of worry about, oh, this date for this, that for that. I can just then simply use the dates from the CF date one, if that is what you want. Of course, if you want to put different date area or different date, whatever, you can, don't put 100 there, put the actual number and then define that date area, or have it blank. And then when it actually prompts you for the area with a dialog box comes along and asking you to point to with your mouse, you can click it wherever you want it to. Top, or either top date for first date or the whole of that date, or even partial if you want. That's what you want. It doesn't even have to bring in from there. You could say, right, I want it to use from there to there, wherever, by not having anything here. Remember, have it completely blank, then it will ask you where you want it from. So the range name DF res question mark should refer to a single worksheet cell. So if you say we are now talking about the result one, DF res, result 1 to 99. So if you have a DFRES 1 or 2, for example, if I don't know whether you remember, we just went into look for the range names. So if I look here to find names, there, name manager, DFRES1. DFRES1 is already defined, and it's on this particular worksheet, row 4, column 9. Row 4, column 9. So if I close that, row 4, column 9 is there. So it's row 4, column 9. Row 4, column 9. Don't know whether it's that obvious on the video or not, but it is row 4, column 9. And also, if you look at here in the top left, there is DFRES1. Name of that particular cell is there. Or if I click it and hold it down with a mouse, you will see it should show row 4, column 9 here as well. Let's see that. There, row 4, column 9. Right, DFRES. If I hold it down with the mouse, I can see that it's row 4, column 9. So, and the name DFRES1 is already here. So DF, discount factor, result 1. Try and keep the names short. No need to keep the whole, have the whole word result 1. As long as you can distinguish, it's quite clear to you res is result rather than it's not a date, because that's why DF date or CF date. I've used the whole word date because it's fairly short, 4 letters in it, whereas result is much longer, so no need to have to use the whole one. So I'm using DFRES1 because this could be anything, DFRES1 up to 99. Okay, DFRES1 to 99. So keep the names short, more meaningful, and more important that when you have a name, if you have a very long name, you might not have it fully displayed here. Whereas if you keep it short, it will be displayed all the time and you will be visible. So you can see that what's there. And now, if the range name difference should refer to a single worksheet cell, the top left corner of the discount factor results area. So that's where the result is, the top left corner, you're specifying the name. If anything other than a number between 1 and 99 is specified for the use DFRES, right? So if user is prompted for discount factor result area, if you do not, or rather, if you specify anything other than 1 and 99 for the use DFRES, there, if you specify anything other than that, then it will use that. User is also prompted for the discount factor result area if use DFRES is not specified. Of course, in this case, for example, I have nothing there, I have not specified, then it will prompt you for the DFRES area. Then the user, similar to the discount factor and cash flow, user can point to a specified DFRES area on any currently open file. User can place discount factor results anywhere in any worksheet of any workbook, as long as that workbook is already open. Discount factor results workbook need not contain a worksheet called AZMAT if the command is used from the X menu of AZMAT System. Right, so if you discount factor results workbook need not contain. So if you actually, instead of using here, if you use Control D for discount factor, then you have to have this AZMAT worksheet in there. But if you use in some other worksheet, you go add in X menu and say discount factors, use it from there, then that particular workbook need not contain a workbook called AZMAT, worksheet called AZMAT, because I'm using the X menu. So you can use it from any workbook, these Excel commands. Right, we will now just have a brief look at the holidays, check for curve grid points before we stop this particular session. Lastly, we have here this so below the DF res area here, we start here the DF replaces holiday dates in the discount factor date. So if you say, right, look for a particular dates in there, and then if you have DF date, if you have, in this case, if you have 1, remember this here, this number 1, it doesn't mean go and look for DF date 1 or anything in here. This one means avoid Saturday and Sunday, avoid the weekend. If it happens to be, for example, a particular date you have here, if I go back up, if I'm looking here, it's Friday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, that's fine. But if I have a Saturday or Sunday and I have a 1 here, that means telling AZMAT system to avoid Saturday, Sunday. And then we have here dates to avoid these special dates. Dates entered as an array. We went through in another tutorial with this one, so I won't go into that, just briefly let you know that. And the days to avoid, bank holidays. So bank holidays for this currency, GBP. So for England and American holidays. I could enter other currencies as well, 3-character currency code, and means avoid the bank holidays for those currencies or for those countries. And then here, days to avoid special dates. There are some special dates as well for these currencies or for these countries. So Deutschmark, GBP, JPY, US dollar. So American holidays, Japanese holidays, British holidays, and German holidays avoid, sorry, not holidays, there are special dates entered in those particular currency curves specified in those particular rates files. Okay, we will stop this brief session now, and we'll proceed at some other day on another future tutorial, something completely different.